Well, welcome out there once again to my program. Always a pleasure to be here, and always a pleasure to have you out there watching. I have a couple of gentlemen that have been on many times before, and they always present some very interesting answers to my questions, and of course additional information in regards to the school system. And I want to welcome once again Gabe Andrade, school committee man, and Joseph Martins, school committee man, and ex-Diamond superintendent of schools.
I was, yes.
Yeah, that's an honor.
Yes, it is.
Particularly since you graduated from there.
That's right,
Well,
too.
but I mean, that's in itself, though, for someone to go there.
We both did, and that was when it was, oh my goodness, lots and lots of years ago. But, you know, that school building has gone through several changes as far as what the purpose of the building was. But right now it's vacant. Boo-hoo.
If I had a lot of money, I'd rehab it, and I'd go into competition.
Oh, not a charter school, please.
No, not a charter school. But anyway, Skills USA, we finished that up. And how did that come out, Joe? Skills USA.
Oh, I enjoyed it. In my particular area, we were looking at the chapter books, like a scrapbook of projects that they did. And there's a certain process, an order in which to be able to judge each of these books. And the kids really did a good job. Those that submitted a book, not you don't have to submit a book, but those that did, they did you can tell that they did a lot of work in the projects that they took on. So it was well worth my effort of spending the day there with four other people, 5 other people.
That was out in Middleborough.
Correct.
And Diamond Vocational High School participated, as usual, a yearly event in a lot of other vocational schools throughout the Commonwealth, or from throughout the Commonwealth.
Just about every vocational school participated.
Now, what's the next step? After that was done, now what happens next?
The winners of the individual events now will go on to national competition in Kansas City.
Wow.
In there and compete nationally, which is quite an honor just to get that far. Yeah.
Well, Gabe, you were there last year.
Actually, I was there probably the last 3 years.
Yeah.
So it was interesting. The work done by some of the students was absolutely phenomenal. And we had the opportunity actually to evaluate some students from Diamond, and they were unbelievable. They had particularly a group in it was a graphic design, and they actually looked like professional consultants. As we listened to them, they were very, very good.
Well, we'll get to something more dear, or maybe not to your heart.
Maybe not.
Which is the school department is putting together a budget, or has it been put together as we speak?
One is put together, which right after this show, both Gabe and I are going to go to CUS for a 5:30 meeting where the budget will be discussed. And
we're talking about the school department budget.
Yes, right, the school department budget, right, will be discussed, and through the subcommittee, the finance subcommittee.
You're the chairman?
Yes. The budget was cut $3.7 million, but one of the things that I didn't know was how much of a cut was actually needed, or is actually needed. to right now, I still don't know how much it is. Is that $3.7 million too little? Or is that $3.7 million too much? I guess in about an hour or so, we'll find out.
Well, actually, you can find out right now, because that phone call I took was from the mayor. He thinks that he's not going to be able to do, it is unlikely that he will do very much more than net school spending, so we didn't cut enough.
Oh, wow.
All right, well, you just heard it. Breaking news. 3.7 million is not,
Not enough.
so that means when you head over to the, your meeting, you're gonna have to do some more cutting? Will you do the
Apparently
cutting?
so.
Will you do the cutting there at the meeting tonight?
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, we could try that, or we could approve the budget just for purposes of the hearing, knowing that we'll still have to cut some more later, because at this point, we'll be coming in somewhat cold. We may have some ideas on what to cut. How much we'll be able to do, I don't know, but we'll find out today.
Well, it's,
That might be the case. However, it's not something that I would prefer. I think it'd be a shame to submit a budget to the community knowing full well that that's not the budget that is going to end up with. I mean, to me, that's paramount to lying to the community in there. I would just as soon say, okay, if that is not enough, then let's do it right now, today, this evening. Let's get it to where what the city can afford, and then submit that amount to to the general public, saying this is our proposed budget.
now, 3.7 million, and if it goes, we'll say, so, hypothetically, if it goes further this evening, it's an amount that needs to be cut, but it doesn't specify where it will be cut. Is that correct?
In some cases, it has, yes,
Already.
because the subcommittee did make specific decisions based on the report or the recommendations of the principals. So some of that 3.7, for the most part, has already been targeted. Going forward now, we're going to have to find some other items, obviously.
Now, the budget in general, the city budget, I believe has to be completed by June 1st. Is that the date?
No, we have to submit our budget to the city by June 1st. They have to complete their budget, I believe, by July 1st, which is a new fiscal year.
Okay, July 1st. And,
Well, actually, June 30th.
Oh,
because
June
July
30th,
1st
right,
is-
correct.
Is the 5th, is 17.
okay, so June 30th, and before it, June 30th arrives, what are the additional steps that has to be taken as far as the school budget, the city side, to complete
Well,
a whole budget which gets submitted to the city council?
I can't speak toward the issue of budgets of the other departments. I'm sure that police, fire, DPW, and all the other departments that are in the city, they're going to be, if they have to be looked at as far as their respective budgets are concerned, they're going to have to be doing that and get it to the to the mayor's office in short order. Now, however, with the school department, if we have to go back to a finance subcommittee, then that takes posting of a meeting, which is what, 48 hours, I guess, in there, and having the meeting, that takes time in there, and I'm sure that it took us 2 days, 2 nights, to get to that 3.7. Actually, it's a little bit more than 3.7. It's actually 4 point something, because you take in, there's a program called Gateway to College. And those are students that had difficulty in high school, were either potential dropouts or did drop out. We got them back into school via a program with BCC. And now one of the considerations is to eliminate that program, thus bringing and those kids would then be allowed to come back to like Jeffrey High School or the Resiliency Prep High School in there to continue their education. So that would bring it to about 4.1, I think it is, something like that.
I think that was included. What was not included, which would bring it up to something like 4.3 million, was 2 professional days that we would have to negotiate with the teachers on. So that if they agreed, then they would not get those 2 professional days, which means they would not be paid for those 2 days, and we would save that money, and that would bring it, I believe, up to the 4.
So let me ask you this: what are some of the major cuts, if some areas have been targeted already?
Some ELT, what do you call it, extended learning time funding. So anything that was not under a grant, for the most part, was cut. Some professional development money. Those are actually the easy cuts in the sense that they didn't touch individuals that
How about
directly.
Teachers or administrators?
There were a few listed. I didn't bring the.
There were just a
the item
few?
with me. There were, I think, a total of just under 50 people.
How many?
50, just under 50, I believe.
Okay, that might be let go.
Correct.
Right.
And most of those people, are they school teachers?
They're
Teachers or
a variety. There's some administrators, there's some paraprofessionals, there are some teachers. There's some custodians listed, but I think that's not necessarily accurate. I think that they're on board, but they're just being paid out of nutrition funding as opposed to school committee funding. So
Now, let me ask you, Joe, will these cuts, any of these cuts affect class size, where class size might actually increase?
It might, but, and I hope not. What we tried to do is to have the absolute least impact on the education of the students as possible. That was a tough thing to do. No one on the finance subcommittee was very happy about having to cut. In the school committee itself, all 7, not very happy about having to do this. But it becomes a matter of
No money?
yeah, no money, exactly. And my position has always been that, and it's shared by everybody, that it's almost like you have 2 children. One child is healthy, the other child is sickly. Where do you put your available resources? You put your available resources toward trying to get the sick child healthy. Right? Now, I'm not indicating that schools are sick, but there are schools that are doing well, and there are schools that are, need some additional help as far as resources are concerned. So I'm one to say, okay, let's take from the schools that are doing well and give it to the schools that need some additional resources in there. Now, you might say, hey, well, wait a minute, that's why a school that's doing well? Hopefully that school will continue to do well.
But how do you get their money?
Oh, that's very easy, because of the fact that the school committee controls the budget.
Oh, you're talking about within the system?
Yes, within the system.
Okay. I thought
Yeah.
you meant this.
No, not out. I wish I could do all the within the state. No.
Okay.
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
Oh, within Fall River Public Schools.
Yeah.
Right. I greatly appreciate the fact that some schools are doing well. That's great, and others, unfortunately, aren't. But You can't, well, it's not because of the fact that, hey, wait a minute, this school is doing well because the teachers are more superior than the teachers of the school who's not doing so well. That's false.
Yeah.
In there. You have to look at the student body. You have to look at the where the students are coming from. All of those factors in there, and to help the schools that aren't doing as well as they should. Okay.
Let me ask you this question, because it still, I think, is a concern of people, even though it's, you might say, in the past. But the neighborhood schools, were they more beneficial than the schools that we have today, where the neighborhood schools have been let go, and we have these consolidated areas of, a school that takes in a number of neighborhoods?
My impression is yes. The neighborhood schools were far superior to what we have here today, because the students were from a much more limited area. The relationships between the families and the faculty, the principal and whatnot, were stronger, simply because the school was smaller, and it was in the immediate area. These large schools are tough. We're talking about 700 students apiece. It's questionable whether the kids of elementary age really do thrive best in an institution quite that big.
It's frightening for some of them.
I'm sure. Obviously, for the faculty and the administration, it's more difficult to know the families and the kids. And even in terms of transportation costs,
That's what
I'm wondering whether the transportation costs have offset any savings that we've had from having fewer schools.
I mean, with the neighborhood schools, quite a few kids just walked over.
Correct?
It was across the street.
It does have the advantages that Gabe indicated. However, the Department of Education will not, the School Building Assistance Program will not fund small neighborhood schools. And since they're fitting the bill to 80%, something close to that,
which is good. But
they're paying 80% of the cost of the building. When I'm paying 80% of the cost of the building, you're going to do it my way, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
In there, but it does have what Gabe indicated. The teachers don't get to know everybody,
Yeah.
and you have if you're a math teacher, and you get to know the kids in your class, but if you have a 2 or 3 math classes going on, you can't know all of these kids in there. Whereas in a small school, every teacher just about at some point in time in those years, they get to be with that child and know them. So it does have some advantages, but to bring all of the technology into all of the small schools, it would cost a lot more than the technology brought into one large school.
Now, the teachers had a meeting. Was it at the union had a meeting with the administration?
well, it might have been the teacher cabinet, which is
Teachers what?
cabinet, which is representatives
cabinet.
of all schools to give their opinions.
Not the
their
union.
insight. Well, they're all union members, but
Okay.
this was an initiative that apparently it was partly union. The administration bought into it. And essentially, it's teachers will get together periodically to weigh in on what's going right, what's not going right, et cetera, just to have input into.
Did this meeting, did it have anything to do with the budget and possible cuts, et cetera?
We weren't there, but indirectly, I believe it did. What they tried to do is, the mayor was present, and they tried to give the mayor an impression of what was going on in the schools, in terms of what good things were happening in the schools. And obviously, at some point, I believe that the issue of money and cuts arose. So.
But if there's no money, it's just a really, a nice discussion.
That's correct.
Right, and I expect that there will be a lot of issues this evening with regards to the budget. But people have to understand that, and something that I said in the past is that in my own personal family, when my adult children were young, they could only have what I could afford to provide for them.
What was coming in, your income?
Yeah, absolutely so. And so if you take the family, say Fall River as a family, then I wish I could provide for the needs of
So if
everyone.
everyone in Fall River lived in a $500,000 house,
That would be nice, but that's not the case.
there'd be enough money. But you're right, that is not the case, and sadly, many people have left the city. They chose not to build in Fall River. They've gone to the suburbs.
Of
And
course,
the suburbs do better because they get more taxes.
the argument is going to be, well, if the kids do not get an adequate education, the education drives economic development. I agree, absolutely so. But I'll be asking the faculty to look, you can't put 10 pounds of product into a 5-pound bag. Understood. However, I think we can expect the faculty, which I know they will, to do the best they can with what they have in there and try to minimize any losses that might otherwise become as a result of reducing the budget.
Now, the school personnel, teachers, administrators, et cetera, is there any requirement that they must live in the city of Fall River?
No.
No.
I'm not sure that we can even do that legally.
That's a concern that Councilor Linda Pereira had brought up, of having people live that work in Fall River, derive their income
This
from.
administration doesn't think so. It's been hiring people from out of the city.
Oh, I understand that. I understand it, because it's hard to implement, and so the answer is no.
No, okay, so there's no requirement at all. So someone could be in the system for 20 years and live in Somerset, Westport,
Which
Timbuk.
many do.
Yeah. Well, okay, so let me ask you this. Now, once the budget is finally put together, it goes to the city council. Is that correct?
Correct.
Does that
After the public hearing.
Correct.
You have a public hearing first, and then it goes to the city council.
All right, and that still has to meet the June 30th deadline?
June 1st for the school department.
But the city council, for the full budget,
Oh, for the full budget, yes,
is that the June 30th
yes.
deadline? Is that chiseled in stone?
I think that's by ordinance.
Pretty close.
City ordinance, or is it even state law?
It may be state law.
Well, they have to have it done.
Yeah.
I don't know what the exact date that all the budgets have to be submitted, and what day, but the city council has to get that adopted by June 30th.
Yeah,
Because
that's-
July 1st is now into the next fiscal year, FY17.
Yeah, that's the answer to my question. So the council has to approve the city budget, and which includes the school,
Correct.
by June 30th.
And they vote on the whole budget together. Once they don't split off any part of the budget. My
So it's
understanding
either
is
yes or no, and that's on the whole budget.
That's my understanding, that they
Yeah.
vote yes, up or down, the whole budget.
The whole
Suppose they say no.
Then I suppose it has to be reworked. Now,
You go on a
maybe-
1/10.
With 1/12.
1/12.
That may be the mechanism where they can go over, but then they have to go to a 1/12 budget. But most people are not really happy about a 1/12 budget because you may have certain items that funded from the previous year that where it's totally out of whack with what you want for the current year. So,
Now, does this have anything to do with the Department of Revenue at all?
Oh, I'm sure the Department of Revenue will become very much involved if that happens.
I would think that they would have something to say about
All right, so
Which I don't really want that to happen.
it. No. Yeah, the less scrutiny, the better.
you don't want the state coming down
No,
and
no, no,
telling you how
no.
to run.
We've had that situation.
Well, okay, we're getting down to the end of the program. Anything you'd like to talk about? What do you have there, Gabe?
Well, this is just some information on the superintendent's search.
You want to give us a quick
Just
update?
a quick thing, I can give you a few dates. The application deadline is the 13th, so that's coming up shortly.
May 13th?
Correct, and then on the 19th, there was one meeting just this week, and the next meeting is on the 19th. That one will most likely be an executive session. They'll be dealing with screening of applications.
How many applicants do you have?
Oh, we don't know, and actually until the 13th, I mean they could have 3 as of now and end up with 30 as of the 13th because a lot of them come at the last minute, so we really don't know, but they'll be doing some screening of applications as well as going over the questions that they're going to ask.
Joe, anything you'd like to talk about before we conclude?
Oh, just, there's
Got
been a
this
lot
big
of discussion of that a strong superintendent is needed. I agree that a strong superintendent is needed, but that strong superintendent also has to have personality. And
That's
not
important.
my way or the highway.
And let me ask you this now. How long would that contract be for? You put someone on?
We haven't even talked about that at this
No,
point.
no length?
Yeah, that's a negotiable issue.
Standard length is usually 3 years, but as you've seen, you can go over, you can go under. Most contracts are often around 3 years.
Now, is that a vote of the school committee?
Yes.
All right.
Along with the salary, too.
Yeah. All right, we're down at the end of the program. I want to thank everybody out there for watching. Gabe, thank you. Joe, thank you. See you in 3 weeks.
Very good.
All right, I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, give the school committee men a telephone call. And you can always call me, too, if you have a question you want me to present to them at the next show that they're on. So thank you out there for watching, and I'll see you next time.